Actress Susan Rathgaber is suing arborist Duff Borsity for having her falsely arrested for assault. Duff says she punched him in the face during an argument at a karaoke bar.
All rise.
Yeah, this is case number 239 on the calendar in the matter of Rathgaber versus Borsity. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
It is your claim that the defendant had you falsely arrested for assault.
Yes, that's right, Your Honor.
And the defendant says that you did, in fact, hit him at a bar. He had every... He had every right to call and make a complaint, and that's your problem. So why don't you tell me how you know him and when this incident took place?
The incident took place in February of this year at a nightclub around the corner from my house. I did not know Mr. Borsity from Adam at the time. When he accosted me in this bar and was trying to convince me that I should leave with him and his friend to go somewhere, as he put it, a little more exciting. At that time, he started pushing me slightly, and we were by the revolving doors, and I was afraid he was going to try and push me out the doors of the restaurant.
How was he pushing you? Show me how he was pushing you.
With his hands around my waist, and I was facing him. It was very uncomfortable. I tried to turn. As I was wearing backless shoes, I tried to turn so that I could stop myself from being pushed. And it only lasted a couple of seconds before the manager at the time yelled over for him to cut it out and take a seat, which he did. However, at the very end of the evening, Mr. Borsity again came forward and, was basically asking me, don't you want to go somewhere else? Where are we going after this? That sort of thing. And I finally had lost my patience with him, and I believe what I said to him was, the closest you're going to get to leaving this bar with me is if I kick you in the butt on your way out the door.
Okay.
At which point, he grabbed me by the shoulders, and I broke his grip and slapped him. He had twice accosted me before I slapped him.
Just a second. So he grabbed you by the shoulders.
Yes.
And you pushed his arms away and slapped him. Okay. What happened next?
After that, he became really enraged, and his arm went up, and I believe he was going to strike me. But at that time, about 3 or 4 other people stepped in and pulled him off. When they finally let go of him, the first thing he did apparently was to turn and push poor Vince into a bunch of chairs. My understanding is that he was injured. I was standing nowhere near anyone at the time. No one was restraining me, and it says in the warrant as well that...
Okay, so that's what happened. Now, you went home that night.
Yes.
Nothing else happened. There was no other contact between the two of you.
As I was leaving, a friend of mine had agreed to walk me out. Mr. Borsity and Mr. Duffy had circled back around in their truck and were waiting for me outside and approached me. Jason, who was escorting me out, said, get back in the car. We don't want any trouble. You guys have, you've caused enough trouble this evening. Don't talk to her, don't anything. And they kept walking. And that's when Vince said, my buddy just wanted to apologize, and Mr. Borsity didn't say anything even like that, but there was no altercation or anything outside. I was like, yeah, fine, whatever, it's done, got in my car, and I went home that evening.
And the next thing that happened was?
The next thing that happened with him is that I'm basically getting out of my shower on a Saturday evening. There's a sheriff pounding on my front door. I've got a robe and a towel on my head, and I'm arrested for an assault that never happened.
What happened with that case?
Well, when we went to court, my attorney had hired a private investigator who had talked to everyone involved. But when we got to the court...
What happened to the case?
It got thrown out.
It was dismissed?
Yes, it was dismissed. They didn't even take it to trial. They said there wasn't enough evidence.
Okay. Now I'll hear you.
We were in the bar, we were drinking, we were doing karaoke. She was in the bar when we arrived. As the night went on, we were talking about several conversations. There was nobody else in the bar. There was only 5 people in the bar total. This, what she said, is a lot of fiction, a lot of fiction. We were talking about the martial arts and things like that, and she basically said, in an inebriated state, that she could probably take me in a conflict. Anyway, I went to the restroom, and I came back. Then she made another derogatory comment to me about my endowment. And I told her, I said...
What did she say to you?
Well, she was talking to the other bartender, and she's looking at me, and she said, I think he probably has a small, That's what she said. And I said, were you talking to me? And she, with a smirk on her face, she said, oh, no, I was talking about somebody else. And I go, whatever. And I called her. I walked away from her, right?
Why did you call her a name?
Because she was speaking to me. Because she was speaking. There was nobody else in the room, and she was smirking. And she had already, said she thought she could take me in a fight, and she was acting, And she'd been up. She's not a wallflower, Your Honor. She had been up doing karaoke. She had done 4 or 5 songs, over the course of the evening. But anyway, make a long story short, as I was walking away, she said it again that I think she probably could take me in karate. And I said, well, I slapped down some money.
This was after you called her a name.
After I called her, yes, I did call her a. And I slapped down some money on the table and I said, there's $5 here that says you can't. That you couldn't take me.
So you challenged her to,
well, no,
please? You challenged her.
Well, I just basically said, yes, I did, I guess.
Okay.
And then Ron, the bartender here, he was bartending at the time, he witnessed it, and he said, take it outside if you're going to do anything. I picked up my money and started walking away from her, and she came up behind me, tapped me on the shoulder, I turned around, she slapped me. And I looked at her and I said, what, are you crazy, right? She slapped me again. Then Vince jumped, he was on a stool, he came around, grabbed me and put my arms around me so it wouldn't go any further escalation, right? While my arms are being held like this, she punched me with a closed fist, okay? I broke free of him, that's how he got injured. When I threw him off me, he hit a table, he fell down, okay? Then she swung at me again, I grabbed her and I put her down on the floor. And then the other bartender, her friend Jason, he came around from the back of the bar and held her while I left. And that's what happened.
This is the 4th version of this story
Just
that
a second.
told.
You testified, is that right?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Both of you were drunk. The only one that wasn't drunk was him.
That's not true. In fact,
Oh, yes, it is.
no.
Oh, yes, it is.
And later today,
He came into my home, took off his clothes, and went straight to the bar.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Susan Rathgaber says she was arrested when fellow bar patron Duff Borsity falsely accused her of assault. Duff says she slapped him twice and then punched him.
Now, you weren't injured,
Well, I was no, I wasn't, ma'am. I did get it.
and so you went home.
Yes, ma'am, I did.
You did not call the police from the bar.
No, I did not.
Did you drive yourself home immediately?
Well, no, I waited for him to come out. My roommate, Vince.
How long did you wait outside for Vince?
Probably about 5-10 minutes.
Is there any reason why you didn't call the police from the bar where there were witnesses?
He asked me to leave, and I didn't want to cause a scene there.
Who asked you to leave?
The bartender, Ron Jolly.
Okay, now step up. You know the plaintiff.
Yes, ma'am.
Before that evening, had you ever met the defendant?
Yes, ma'am.
Were you friendly with Mr. Borsky?
Yes, ma'am.
And what about the plaintiff?
She was a regular at the club probably about a year since I started working there.
Okay, did you ever have any words with her?
No, ma'am.
Have any problems with her?
No, ma'am.
Did she ever become drunk and sloppy?
Once or twice, maybe, yes.
She did.
Yes.
And do you remember how much each of these two people had to drink that night?
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me.
Both of them were pretty well intoxicated, yes.
And when the defendant left, he said he went out and got in his pickup truck. Who drove home?
That I don't know.
Who drove home?
I did, ma'am.
Drunk.
Yes, ma'am. She drove home drunk, too.
I'm going to get there. I thought you lived around the corner. Did you drive home?
Yes, ma'am, I did, but I had waited in the club for about 40 minutes by the time I left. And I waited in my car with Jason for about another 20 after that. And I actually had only had 3 beverages over a 4-hour period that
I don't think that's what he's saying. Is that right?
No, ma'am. I was serving shots to both parties all night.
And they were both pretty well drunk.
Correct. And this did happen around 1:30. And when I left the bar at 2 o'clock, there was nobody outside.
Now, you want to tell me what you observed that
Yes,
night?
ma'am. They were sitting on one side of the bar over here. She was on the other side of the bar. There was conversation back across the bar. The fact of the martial arts did come up. At that point, I did take keen to the conversation because when people are drinking in a bar, a conversation like that comes up, you need to keep an eye on them. Then I did see Mr. Borsity come around. She did actually challenge him a few times, and there was a bet made. He walked around, he put money on the bar, and at that point, I told both of them to go outside. At that time, he picked the money up from the bar, put it back in his pocket. She got up from her seat, tapped him on the shoulder. As soon as he turned around, she took her open fist and slapped him right in his face. His head actually turned completely to the side.
And then what did you see?
She stepped back in an aggressive stance. She was smiling, laughing. I asked her then to grab her things and leave. She took a few steps towards him again, slapped him a second time. That's when Vince came around. He tried to hold Duffy back, and then that's when she hit him again. He took Duffy, threw him off. He went over one table, landed at the base of another table. I was getting furious. I was like, you guys need to leave right now, because then that looks bad on me because I'm not controlling the situation.
I got you. Okay.
I'm sorry, Your Honor, that's just not the story that Mr. Borsity told the police, and it's not the story that was in his warrant that he swore out under oath.
Just a second. Let me tell you something. Both of you were drunk. The only one that wasn't drunk was him.
That's not true, in fact.
Oh, yes, it is.
No.
Oh, yes, it is. He wasn't drunk. The two of you were drunk. That's why I don't care what he swore to in the warrant. I don't care what you're telling me happened, because neither one of you have a clear picture of what happened. He has a very clear picture of what happened. Clear as a bell. I believe that you hit him.
In self-defense?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. Nope. I don't. I don't believe it was in self-defense. I believe that you hit him. I don't believe that you injured him. He says you didn't injure him.
No, she didn't.
What? You still can't put your hands on somebody. You can't slap somebody twice. You can't, but just because you're a girl.
Well, it was perfectly acceptable for him to push me around in a bar.
Well, he didn't push you around at all.
Absolutely.
Oh, no, he didn't. No, he didn't. You may not like what he said to you. You may not like that he was coming on to you. Let's leave or whatever. If you didn't like what he had to say to you and you thought he was drunk or you thought he wasn't being respectful, you could have gotten in your car and gone home. You chose to stay. You chose to stay until 1 o'clock in the morning. So nothing that he said to you was that offensive because the place wasn't hopping with a whole bunch of other people. I believe that you put your hands on him first. Your case is dismissed. That's all.
Thank you.
Man, that kid was acting really weird yesterday. I should probably go check on him. Wait, Steve, what are you doing back so soon? Also, that's not your house.
Oh, right, of course. I was just looking for my sword, nothing more. I hope all is well here in the village.
That was strange. Huh, it seems like the kid is gone. Maybe that Herobrine attack scared him off. Wait, what is that? Oh my god, is that blood?
While Steve did his best to cover his tracks, it was already too late. The villager had caught on and followed the trail of evidence to the forest. The villager wasn't aware of what happened, but all he knew was that the villager kid might be in trouble.